This morning, Scott Bauer, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, joins us. Scott, welcome. No numbers at the bottom of the hour to look at, but jolts this morning. The jobs opening report this morning. The survey comes at 10 a.m. Eastern. I guess my question is, with the jobs report last week, kind of puts today's release somewhat in the spotlight.
It really does, Ben, because, when we look at jolts, a lot of people kind of pass over this one. But it's really important because what jolts is a measure of, it looks at near-term jobs, right? Jobs that are starting within the next 30 days, and not only openings, but also employers that are actively looking to fill those roles. So when you really dig down deep, we're looking at the here and now, not what happened last month, not what's projected, out in the future, but what's going on right now. So I think, like you said, coming off of the report we got last week, this could be a fairly important number we're looking at.
Scott, with all the focus on stimulus to come, the Biden administration, the changing the guards, so to say, and expectations that there will be more, will investors shrug off a disappointing number if that's how it comes in today? I mean, it seems like we're kind of in one of those scenarios where bad news is good news and good news is good news.
Yeah, I don't know, Ben. I think that there could be some concern on this one. I'm usually one to say, that one number
does not a trend make.
Doesn't set the bar. But, given some of the negative news that we've seen, the trend maybe starting, this one to me could stand out if it's not a good number.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on it even more closely now since you said that. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other data points that we should be keeping an eye on this week. I'd imagine once we get this JOLTS number, the focus is going to shift to inflation. We got CPI, PPI, but even more so a significant and closely watched number, retail sales at the end of the week.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're going to get a look at how the consumer really reacted and spent during the holiday season, and what the look is going forward here. So I think that is the key to the week here. Obviously, take out all the headline news. I think that retail sales number is really going to be very important to give us an insight into the health of the consumer.
Scott, talk to me about the dollar. We saw it, push lower into multi-year lows. It seems to be taking a bit of a breather right now. Is this done and over, or is it just a breather at this point, do you think?
I don't think it's done and over. I'm not expecting the dollar to plunge from here, but I think this little bit of a rally, and I think it's up 1.5% over the last few days or so. I think it's very short-lived. There's too many headwinds coming into that space. We know that the new administration is very, very in favor of stimulus, and I just think that it's short-lived.
Scott, can you talk to me about how much attention you've been devoting to this run-up in TNX, 10-year yields, the yield curve, which has been steepening at a rapid rate, and, is this a focal point, or should it be, I guess I should say, for investors, and potentially could it derail the environment we've been seeing, the trend environment to the upside in the indices?
It's very important. Again, Ben, I think it's going to be short-lived. I think we're going to see the 10-year come back off a little bit and trade under 1% sooner rather than later. That's probably some of the reason we've seen the big dive in gold, some of the other commodities recently as well. Listen, you can't outsmart the market. You can't outsmart the Fed, if you will. You do have to look at that steepening yield curve, but I wouldn't get too concerned over it, at least right now.
Let's pull that yield curve up here if we could, and I like to look at the 30-year versus the 5-year. It really points it out. Scott, you mentioned you can't outsmart the market. I think that is a different way of saying price is king. Can you talk to us about, again, Bitcoin and some of the movement we've been seeing there? Because this move has been unprecedented, and I guess I'm wondering, overdone, similar question as I had with the dollar, or more to come?
Well, the volatility, I believe, is here to stay, at least for a while. You had the massive run up, some of it fueled by institutional investors, a lot of it fueled by FOMO, no question about it. And now that we've seen it come off, 20% and vacillate kind of back and forth, I think we're going to be in a little bit of a holding pattern here. Holding pattern. What does that mean? I mean, if we see Bitcoin trade within a 10% range, to me, that's a sideways movement here. But I do think the longer-term trend probably still is to the upside.
Scott, there's argument here that, well, that one, Bitcoin's bid activity that we've been saying is tied to the weakness in the U.S. dollar, but there's also argument that Bitcoin's taking over gold's role in the marketplace for investors. You just spoke to the volatility. I have a hard time buying into that when you see 10, 20% intraday moves. I mean, it's difficult for a Bitcoin to fulfill that need for investors when you're seeing increase in intense volatility like that.
Yeah, now I don't buy into the fact that it's taking over you're replacing the role of gold. You know, the fact that there is a finite amount pretty much takes that off the table for me. I think that volatility, again, was fueled by a lot of FOMO, but there is, you know, some credence to the fact that institutions are buying in because we're now starting to see usage. We're now starting to see major companies use it, apply it. I'm not just talking about Bitcoin, but I'm talking about cryptocurrency in general. So I do think it's here to stay, though. But that volatility, Ben, it's really unprecedented, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Yeah, Square, PayPal, we've heard from the ECB, the FOMC, Elon Musk even chimed in, and I'm not sure if you saw this story, but I recently commented on how there was a guy in New York trying to sell 2 Hell's Kitchen bars on Bitcoin. I think he wanted 25 Bitcoin or something like that for it, so, or I can't remember the exact amount, but certainly...
And an NFL player that wants to be paid in Bitcoin.
Certainly interesting developments, to say the least, and it has brought it into the mainstream discussion here. Scott, thanks for joining us here. A great breakdown in terms of what's playing out. Scott Bauer, ladies and gentlemen, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, and